All right, let's do it. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, everybody, for another wacky Wednesday, baby. Another wacky Wednesday. You already know what's coming every Wednesday. You already know. We're going to show up here and we're going to talk about potential upsets of the week and whatever other topics might come our way. And we're going to be wearing something pretty weird. All right? Make it a little more fun. We always love getting on here and dressing up nice. Got your suit and tie, maybe just a polo, something like that. But, you got to go a little casual and have a little fun, Last week we had our nice little banana shirt going. They got so much support, I almost thought about wearing it again. But, I'm sure we'll bring that back out here in a few weeks. But today we went with the second one that we had in our closet. We've got a couple. But the second one that we had in our closet with the Hawaiian. Believe it or not, I've actually been to Hawaii Stadium, Aloha Stadium, back where they used to play the Pro Bowl and things like that. Hawaii building their own new stadium now, but didn't buy this shirt there, unfortunately. Didn't buy this shirt better. But looking forward to talking ball tonight, guys. And, maybe eventually on Wacky Wednesday, we can bring some of you guys into the live stream. And maybe we can just kind of get like this little community thing going. And if you got your own wacky shirt, you can be on air with us. And we can all, share it a little bit. Who knows? But we'll figure some stuff out. But again, we're so happy you guys could be here tonight. Just ready to talk some college football. We're going to talk about upsets. We're going to talk about the surprises and disappointments that we've seen so far this season. We're going to take your questions in the chat like we always do. And if time permits, once we've gone through everything, we might open the phone lines up for a little bit just to kind of get to hear y'all's voices and get a little bit more discussion going on. So we'll kind of see where the night takes us. But again, so glad you guys could be here. Shout out to Scotty B, South Tex, Certified Cully, Mike Myrick. One thing I like about seeing all that up there is the fact that it's almost like a roll call. You guys come in there and you're immediately supporting your team. We got Sick'em, Sco Brew, we got Go Knowles. And even if you're not talking about your team, I can see CCD. He's got Maryland right there in his logo. So we know he's a Maryland fan. He goes, dang it, we got a game on. Hey man, look. I just went off. I got it. I got the game on my iPad right now, so I've got stuff going on here with the camera. I've got the iPad over here, so I can kind of keep my eye off to the side. So we're keeping the eye on. We're watching together here. Have us on in the background while you watch SMU and UCF. So we're making sure to watch it. You can never miss a game. Robert Sharpton, good to see you. Congrats on getting your braces off, but don't switch from being a Georgia fan. You can't switch like that. Got to make sure you have some loyalty to your team. Through the good and the bad, through the good and the bad. And if you're going to switch teams, you can't go to Alabama. I mean, come on. You can't go from Georgia to Alabama from number 1 to number 2 or number 2 to number 1. But Georgia will be just fine. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But Robert, good to see you. SBO Kennels, good to see you. Nice to have you here tonight. Let's see what else. Sarah Brown, good to see you. She likes the Hawaiian shirt better than the banana shirt. So we might have to take a vote on what the favorite was, whether it was the Hawaiian today or the banana one from last week. We'll wait and see. Can we do a hula dance for us? Maybe we'll factor in the hula dance if we reach 100 expert pick subscriptions. I'm already committed to doing the gritty, from what I've been told. So I've already committed to doing the gritty. I've already committed to doing a 24-hour live stream. If we hit that milestone, we'll just go ahead and factor in a hula dance. The question is, do I wear the Hawaiian shirt for that, or do I bring everything out? Do we go do we go coconut bra? Do we go grass skirt? Do we go grass skirt with no people are you never know how big do we want to go with that hula if we get 100 subs? That's the question. Matthew Hazelhorse, good to see you, man. Appreciate that comment. David Cattell, good to see you here as well. Major shout out again to you, David, for joining our team last night. And again, thank you for all the support. Love getting to chat with you, whether it's just about the channel, about football, about the Hoosiers. But we really appreciate you. David, the newest member, guys, to our expert picks team. Bought the picks last night, so we're super pumped about that. Happy to have him. Charles Phillips, good to see you. Logan Elliott, Ronald Brown, Eugene Murphy. All of you guys, so good to see you. So pumped to have you. Thank you for being here. And of course, that goes for everybody that is watching now, might be watching later, might be watching a week from now. We are happy to have you and happy to have you a part of our GE Nation. So, having said that, let's get down to some business here. The night's still obviously very young, and we actually have two major topics we want to talk about. We've got, the reason we're doing Wacky Wednesday. alert the sirens, baby. We got the upset alert. We've got 3 potential games here that we might be talking about, teams that could spring an upset. And remember, or what we're classifying as an upset is a team that is a double-digit underdog, so at least 10-point underdog, that could win the game outright. That is what we are kind of classifying that. We've been kind of sticking with that trend as we've gone through these live streams. So we're going to be talking about that, and then we're going to talk about some of the biggest surprises and disappointments from each Power 5 conference. We promised you guys we would do that last night, so we're going to bring that to the table today, breaking down the 5 Power 5 conferences, 1 team from each. 1 surprise team, 1 disappointment from each Power 5 conference, hitting on those, taking your comments and discussions on that, and again, just kind of seeing where the night goes. So, let's get down to it. So let me ask you this. As we let more people get on the stream, who wants to go first? What do we want to do first? Do we want to do upsets first, or do we want surprises and disappointments first? We'll let you guys decide in the chat. But Charles Phillips, as you guys maybe answer that. Charles, good to see you. A&M's not that bad, but difficult to believe they beat Arkansas. Charles is a Mississippi State fan, but you're not a fan of the air raid. So I know you and so now Sarah are both Mississippi State fans. So maybe you guys can discuss that in the chat. Because I know Sarah is actually a big Mississippi State fan as well. But yeah. I disagree with you, Charles. I'm a big air raid fan, not Mississippi State fan, but I'm a big air raid fan personally. I love that style of offense. If you have the players to make it work and the personnel to make it work, and Mike Leach certainly has that with Will Rogers. I do agree with you though about A&M beating Arkansas, but did not see that coming, and definitely believe Arkansas should have won that game. So good to see you here, Dusty Rabbit ×2. Dusty Rabbit. Good to see you. All right. You got it first. We saw a couple people already talking about it. We got upsets. Let's get to it. You guys spoke in the chat. That's what we're sticking with. We're going upset alert. And we got 3 games for you tonight. Let's get down to the first one that could result, again, a double-digit underdog that could win the game outright. It is Wisconsin and Northwestern in the Big Ten. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, no way. Right? No way. Northwestern is horrible. Northwestern is the underdog here. They're about a 10-point underdog to the Badgers. The game is in Evanston. Here's the thing. While Northwestern is horrible, while they do have losses to Southern Illinois, while they do have a loss to Miami, Ohio, they are still leading the Big Ten West. Let's think about that for a second. 1-4 leading the Big Ten West. Now, again, we're not saying that Northwestern's going to win. We're not when we do these upset alerts, we're not saying that these are the games that are going to happen. We're not predicting Northwestern, but we're saying it's a strong possibility. When you look at the series between Wisconsin and Northwestern, guys, it's relatively close. They've actually split the last 4 meetings. Evanston. Northwestern has won 2 of the last 4. Wisconsin has won 2 of the last 4. But Northwestern has won 3 of the last 4 in Evanston. So they've won 3 of the last 4 games at home over Wisconsin. They typically give the Badgers some fits. When you look at Wisconsin, you can't help but wonder, how are they going to respond? How are they going to respond after the loss of Paul Chryst? And they just fired him. New interim head coach, Jim Leonard, taking over for that. It can go one of 2 ways when you fire a coach midseason. It can, rejuvenate your team. Light a fire under them, and they just start taking off playing way better, kind of like we saw last week with Georgia Tech. We saw Nebraska get a win over Indiana without Scott Frost. So you never know what could happen when you fire a coach. But I did think it was interesting. One comment, Braylon Allen, the running back for Wisconsin, saying, if you wanted Paul Chryst gone, if you were a player on Wisconsin and you were saying, I want him gone, you were not a part of that team. So clearly the players didn't want him gone. Sometimes there are. Sometimes players quit on their coaches. Sometimes players are ready for their coaches to be gone. That wasn't the case in Madison. It felt like Wisconsin still wanted him there. And keep in mind, this is a guy who still won 3 Big Ten West titles, had a really good record. It was surprising to see him go. Out of all the coaches that have been fired so far this season, he was the most shocking so far. So going back again to this game, Wisconsin and Northwestern. The Wildcats play very, very well at home against the Badgers. The Badgers dealing without Paul Chryst for the first time. Both teams have horrendous offenses, as we know. Both teams have relatively strong defenses. Wisconsin sitting at 2-3. Northwestern sitting at 1-4. Not only will this not be a great game, but what it does have is major division implications. Again, major division implications in the Big Ten West. You look at the standings. Wisconsin, I believe, is 1-1. Wisconsin, I think, is 0-2, if I'm not mistaken. 0-2 in conference play. Yeah, to Ohio State and then Illinois, losing bad to the Fighting Illini. Northwestern, they win this thing. They're 2-4, and they're still atop the Big Ten West standings. Iowa's in the mix. Illinois is in the mix. Minnesota's still in the mix. But Wisconsin loses. They're done. They're out. 0-3. So watch out for that game, guys. Northwestern, double-digit underdogs. You don't know what can happen when you fire a coach. The series history shows this could be a closer game than expected. Wouldn't be surprised to see Northwestern pull off the upset. All right, upset number 2. Let's get our siren going again. I need to get like an air horn or something to really get it going here. Have a little extra effect. But our second upset of the night, second of 3, Washington State and USC. Now again, we're not saying that Washington State's going to beat USC. That is not what we're saying. But we are saying that the Cougars have the capability to win this game. It is at the Coliseum, yes, we know, but what a battle. And we actually broke this game down, yesterday in our predictions, in our Week 6 predictions video, kind of the 5 underrated games. This was one of them. Not only does it have major Pac-12 conference implications, again, when it comes to the standings, you got to keep in mind, Washington State probably should have been a 5-0 team going into this game. They should have beat Oregon. They fell short in Pullman, blew the lead. It was an ultimate choke job. Should have won, though. But they're 4-1. They've got a quarterback that can hang with Caleb Williams. Cam Ward can hang with Caleb Williams. There's no doubt about that. Williams does own the advantage, but they can meet him step for step. Additionally, both teams actually have a pretty surprising defense. Washington State last year was really, really good defensively. They were one of the best teams in the country when it came to turnover margin, and that is more of a testament to what Jake Dickert has done with the Cougars, more so than what Nick Rolovich was doing prior to his firing. But you look at these teams, I think USC has like 19 sacks on the year. Washington State has 18. They both have multiple takeaways this year. This game could be a closer game than expected. Washington State about a 13-point underdog, so almost 2-touchdown underdog in the Coliseum. Another big storyline to watch coming into this game as well. Again, putting those logos back there. USC is a top 10 team. We understand that. That obviously means they're in the hunt for a Pac-12 title. They're in the hunt for the college football playoff. No doubt about it. Next week, USC travels to Salt Lake City to take on Utah. And if Utah is to beat UCLA on Saturday, you will have a top 10 matchup in Salt Lake City if USC beats Washington State. This is the classic look-ahead game, right? This is the classic game where an elite team gets to host what many say is an inferior team, but they're looking, so they overlook them a little bit in preparation for the big game next week, which would be Utah for USC, and then Washington State wins. Classic look-ahead game. All the excitement is zapped from that Utah game. The Pac-12, again, gets thrown into a disarray. Right now it's been more competitive than it's been in years with USC and Utah and Oregon and Washington. Throw in Washington State if you want. UCLA now, of course, included in that. But Washington State has the opportunity to throw it all off. They have the opportunity to throw it all off, just blow it to smithereens. They can do that on Saturday at the Coliseum. They have the talent to do it. We saw them almost take down an elite team in Oregon. Yes, it was at home, but they can do it on the road. Watch out for the Cougars. My man, where is he? Anthony? I thought he was here earlier. Yeah, there's Anthony. I know he probably is not the biggest fan of that potential upset. Again, not calling it, but definitely need to be cautious of the Cougars. All right, and number 3, our third upset alert. Our third game that could be an upset, and look at that, touchdown UCF, tying the game against SMU. I told you, CCD, we'd be watching. Third upset alert, though, you guys called it. It's Arizona over Oregon. Hey, look at that. Great minds think alike in the GE Nation. We saw a lot of people I was looking at the chat. I didn't want to spoil it for anybody, but great calls by Dusty Rabbit, by Anthony, all of you guys that were kind of talking about Arizona potentially upsetting Oregon and Tucson. We think so too. Again, we're not saying Arizona's going to win this game. Again, we're not saying that right now. But the Wildcats are what, like 12-ish point underdogs last time I checked? About a 12-point underdog. And Arizona has been phenomenal this year. I mean, give them credit. I will, again, we always own up to our losses here at the Gridiron Expert. We're very transparent. We're going to be honest with you on our records. And, we admit we were wrong. And I was 100% wrong on Arizona. I did not have very high hopes for them. I did not think that they were going to do very well this year. And they have surprised me. They, Jed Fish has done a phenomenal job recruiting. Jaden DeLora has played some phenomenal football. I think I had them at like 2-10, 3-9, somewhere around there. And they already have 3 wins. And they easily can make it 4 Saturday. Look, this is the thing, guys. I mean, it's Pac-12 after dark. It's a late night game out in the desert. How many times in the last, say, 5 years, just 5 alone, have we seen big-time upsets take place in Arizona? And also for Oregon, as you guys have mentioned, Oregon consistently struggles in the desert, both against Arizona and Arizona State. They just don't play very well in that state. And we have seen time and time again where they slip up to the Wildcats or the Sun Devils. And this time it could be Arizona. You keep in mind, last year the Wildcats had a pretty good passing defense, first off. Once again, that is the case this year. It's not elite by any means, but it's pretty solid. It was underrated last year for a team that had such a poor record. Pretty solid this year. Jaden DeLora and the offense, they're firing on all cylinders. They've got the home field advantage against Bo Nix and the Ducks. And this is a game where I easily could see Bo Nix, who has thrived these last few weeks, played well against BYU, played well against Washington State, led them to that comeback. Who they beat last week? Stanford. Played very well against Stanford. They're on a roll. They're inching towards the top 10. They are in the top 10 in our rankings. And Arizona has a chance to ruin that. And what Arizona also has an opportunity to do, let's keep this in mind, they have an opportunity to eliminate Oregon from the college football playoff race and then make it really a 2-team race in the Pac-12 when it comes to potentially the playoff. And that would be USC and Utah, which again adds extra emphasis to the game next Saturday if both the Trojans and the Utes win against their respective opponents. Top 10 showdown, a loss for Utah, they're eliminated from the playoff. USC is the front runner for the conference and the playoff race. Utah wins. USC is not completely eliminated, but Utah overtakes them for that top spot. I mean, so much is at stake here, and a win for Arizona over Oregon takes the Ducks out of the equation because they would have their second loss in 6 weeks to Georgia, understandable, and then Arizona, which wouldn't be as much, but very much so could be an upset. So, I love how great minds think alike. Anthony called it. Dusty Rabbit called it. We saw a couple other guys call it, thinking, hey, I'm calling it now. Arizona's going to upset Oregon, and I would not be surprised in the slightest. Would not be surprised in the slightest. This, I don't think Tucson is as tough as a place to play as that of maybe like Pullman. Maybe about the same playing field, but I had more faith in the Washington State crowd than Arizona. But there's something about those late night games in the desert that can screw up any team. Don't know what it is, but they can screw up any team, no matter who it is, no matter when it is, they can do it. Watch out for Jed Fish looking to get his signature victory with a top 15 victory over the Ducks. So watch out for that. So there you go, guys. That was our 3 upsets. Again, there aren't too many double-digit underdogs that are worth looking at, all the time. Last week we only had like 2 because a lot of the double-digit underdogs were teams that we felt confident weren't going to get upset, right? These are 3 that we feel like could easily be upset this year. So again, recapping the upset alert and the sole reason for Wacky Wednesday, although on top of just wanting to have some fun, Northwestern potentially upsetting Wisconsin at home. So Northwestern, the only team we mentioned today that has, Arizona as well. Northwestern, a home team that could upset Wisconsin, about a 10-point underdog. Over here, Washington State has the possibility to upset USC at the Coliseum on Saturday as well. And then, we just mentioned, Arizona at home in the desert at night could take down Oregon. And notice, guys, 2 Pac-12 games here. Washington State, USC, Oregon, Arizona. I'm telling you, we have loved watching the Pac-12 thrive and succeed so well. But can you imagine if both those upsets come true? If Washington State were to take down USC, if Arizona were to take down Oregon, two of the top three teams in the Pac-12 would lose. And then let's just for fun, let's say UCLA upsets Utah. Then what happens? Then what happens? Is UCLA then the front runner for the Pac-12, not just to win it, but to also make the college football playoff for the conference? That's the beauty of college football, guys. That's the excitement about these games. That's the beauty of Upset Saturdays and Wacky Wednesday and Upset Alert. You look at these games and the possibilities and what could come of these games. It's not just a major win for Arizona or Washington State. Yeah, congrats to them if they pull it off. That's awesome. But it single-handedly is a domino effect in how it can affect the conference and how it can affect the national race. That is the beauty of college football. The win for one team is exciting and does a lot for that program, but the effect that it has on everything else is unmatched. It's so unmatched, and that is why we love the game. So, there you go, guys. There's your upset alerts. We're excited to see if they come true. Again, we're not necessarily saying that we're picking those teams. Again, we've picked a few. I will say that. We have picked a few, but we don't always pick all of them. We're just saying these are games you need to be aware of, and we'll definitely make sure to revisit these next week. We actually might start doing that. I'm going to go back and watch the previous live streams, look at the upsets that we kind of talked about, and see if any of them came true. Not that we're predicting them again, but kind of our record when we do our Wacky Wednesdays. So, I want to get through the chat a little bit here before we move on to our next topic. Again, good to see everybody on the stream tonight. Dusty Rabbit was saying, he was like, yep, I called it. He goes, now you call it. Now you say that Oregon's going to lose. I'm not saying it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Cyclone Mitch, good to see you, man. Texas is winning the Red River rivalry. I agree. I 100% agree with that. I mean, that to me is a no-brainer, sadly. That's one of those top games that you want to look at as a rivalry game. Anything can happen, sure, in rivalry matchups, but you look at Texas, man. I mean, Quinn Ewers is coming back. They looked pretty good against West Virginia last week. They needed a good bounce-back win following the loss to Texas Tech. Oklahoma obviously reeling after that loss to TCU. Not just any loss, just an absolute beatdown. Probably going to be without Dylan Gabriel, so down to their backup quarterback. None of their quarterbacks outside of Gabriel really have much experience. It feels like not a Texas blowout, but I would be shocked if all that ends up being true come kickoff. If Ewers is there and Gabriel's out and everything like that, I would be surprised if Texas lost that game. I wouldn't put it past them. They've done it before, but I do feel that Texas will win the Red River rivalry, and that's huge for Steve Sarkisian. He cannot afford a third loss this early in the year. Like, Texas needs this win. Oklahoma and Brent Venables, they've got a little bit more leeway. I mean, the bottom line, too, guys, is whoever loses this game, let's think about this. Whoever loses between Texas and Oklahoma is going to have their third loss of the year. Let's look at it that way. So, Texas or Oklahoma is going to be 3-3 through 6 weeks of the season. Obviously, that would be more shocking if it was Oklahoma than Texas, but regardless, you can't help but wonder what does that mean for Texas if they lose this game. If they drop to 3-3, they lose to Oklahoma. They've lost to Alabama, okay. Should have won, but okay. Alabama, Texas Tech, Oklahoma. 3 losses. They haven't played Kansas, and that game's in Lawrence. That's not going to be easy, like people thought it would be. Haven't played Kansas. They haven't played TCU. That's going to be a tougher game, clearly, than people thought it would be. They haven't played Baylor, obviously one of the best. They haven't played Oklahoma State. I mean, there's a lot of elite opponents left ahead for Texas that if they drop this game to go 3-3 and they lose 3 more of those, they're right on the fringe of bowl eligibility, and they might not win the majority of those games. So then you have to question yourself, all right, 5-7 in year one, if they go 6-6 this year or 5-7 again, is Steve Sarkisian out? Is Steve Sarkisian fired if they lose? Or not even if they lose, but is he fired if Texas fails again? Because the schedule is not going to get any easier for Texas. The Big 12 is so wide open, so many good opponents and surprising opponents that you kind of have to worry about it a little bit. So Oklahoma, they're not going to get rid of Brent Venables after 1 year by any means. They got to give him time to build himself up. But obviously a 3-3 start was far from ideal when people expect him to play more defense and the offense was supposed to be just as good. It's just been a rough last 2 weeks. Jerry Turner, good to see you, man. Happy to be here. Big Syracuse guy on the stream. I love it. Eddie Rose, good to see you here. What's my prediction on Missouri and Florida? That's not really a high radar game for many. I will say this, Eddie. I think Florida wins that game. It is in the swamp, so I do think Florida's going to win that game. I think it's one of those things, Eddie, for Missouri. They've shown life these last few weeks, right? They should have beat Auburn on the road. They should have beat Georgia last week. And imagine if Missouri had won both. Just think about that. Imagine if Missouri had won both. They'd be undefeated in conference play, right? The only loss to the Kansas State, if I'm not mistaken, would be their only loss. And we'd be talking about Missouri as a legitimate contender in the SEC East. I mean, it'd be crazy. But the fact of the matter is they didn't. And now they have to go on the swamp. And it's one of those things where, as a team that was a 28-point underdog to fall so almost beat the number one team in the country, you can walk in that locker room and go, man, that hurts. That's unfortunate. But you know what? We weren't even supposed to be close in this game. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's a moral victory, which I don't believe in. But so you could do that, wipe it, shrug it off and move on. But I think that took such a big toll on Missouri. There is a hangover game. When you come so close to taking down the lead opponent but falling short, there always is a bit of a hangover game for most teams. And I think Missouri's going to have that. They're coming off a physical game against Georgia. Florida's coming off a short week, but a blowout win over Eastern Washington. I think Missouri I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. And I don't think they're going to be able to account much for Anthony Richardson. I don't think he's that good. But the dual threat capability is there. It's coming to life a little bit more. And the Missouri defense, I think, will struggle with that. Let's see. South Tex, I love this. He says, upset Bruins are going to destroy Utah at the Rose Bowl. The Bruins will move into the top 10 at 6-0. How awesome would that be? I mean, I'm here for it, man. Like I was saying with those upsets. I mean, I am an advocate for chaos. I love chaos. When the playoff rolls around and we are talking about these scenarios about who's in and who should be ranked where. I mean, I like last week, let me tell you, for our week 6 rankings, that was the toughest set of rankings for us to make because so many teams lost. So the work was harder for sure. It wasn't just, move this guy up, move that guy down. Like you had 10 top 25 teams lose. So you really had to think about where these teams deserve to be ranked. And you had to look at quality of the win, quality of opponent, margin of victory, all that. But at the same time, I loved it. I love upsets. I love chaos. Not literally. Not literally, but I like watching the world burn. I love seeing so many upsets. I love seeing the unpredictability. I love seeing chaos in the individual conferences. Because you know what that does? Is it creates excitement for these individual regular season games. It also creates a great discussion among us fans and just analysts as you're watching these games, as you're looking at them. It's not cut and dry. It's not like, Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, done, move on. Like when we get chaos, we have to actually discuss. We have to think. We have to use our brains. It's fun. It's not predictable. It's not so dry. We have parity. That's what I'm looking for. So like I said, I'm kind of all for it. I mean, our official prediction for that, again, will come out on Friday between Utah and UCLA. But, if UCLA wins that game and jumps into the top 10, no one saw UCLA starting 6-0 and jump into the top 10 if they did that. So, chaos, baby. It's excitement. It's unpredictable. Throw them in there. And like I said, does that mean that UCLA is a legitimate playoff contender? Very well could be. Very well could be, because then they've got USC later on in the year. If UCLA keeps winning, they got a game against Oregon too, so they can pad that resume with a win over Oregon. And that could set up a top 10 showdown between USC and UCLA. Winner maybe goes to the Pac-12 championship and maybe gets into the playoff. I mean, there's so much at stake. And that's why all these regular season games matter. And once again, that will continue to be my argument with the expanded playoff. A lot of people are saying that it's going to take away meaning from these regular season games, and I disagree. It still will create chaos in the individual conference races. All the games are going to mean something because you're still looking to pad that resume. Because bottom line is, the way the new playoffs is going to be structured with 12 teams, they're going to take the highest ranked conference champions from the four highest ranked conference champions. Those are the guys that get bye weeks. All right. That means it's important. It's still important to go undefeated. It's still important to be a one-loss team. Conference championships are still going to mean something. Then you're going to take a couple at-larges, right? You still got to take your other, your fifth conference champion. So all the conference champions you're going to get. Still got to take your fifth one. Still got to take a group of 5 members. So boom, that's half the playoff. 6. They got 6 more. So you got 6 at-larges that are on the table there, right? Give you an example. Northwestern. If we had a 12-team playoff right now, say Northwestern wins out and makes the Big Ten championship games. They're 8-4. They lose the Big Ten championship to Ohio State. Is Northwestern getting in at 8-5? Sure, they're the Big Ten runner-up, but are they getting in at 8-5? No, they're not. But they easily could have gotten in had they defeated Southern Illinois and Miami, Ohio. So 8-5 to 10-3 as a Big Ten runner-up. You could see Northwestern get in there as the 12th seed or something like that. Once again, showing that regular season games will matter. They will matter. They're going to mean something because you can only have half of your playoff field as a conference champion. That's how it is now. Only one team's going to win a conference. Then there's 6 at-larges. And if you screw up earlier in the year and or you're really strong, but you peter out and fizzle out towards the end, you're going to miss out on that at-large spot. The regular season games matter. Building up a solid resume still matters. And that, again, kind of ties into the chaos and everything. And that's a little bit of a rant there, but I get frustrated when I hear people saying, oh, the expanded playoffs is horrible. It's not. It's not. All right? It's going to be fine. It's going to work out great. It's going to be much better for the sport, much more exciting, and should bring us a lot more parity. In turn, bring more chaos. In turn, brings more fun for us as fans. Boom. Case closed. That's the TED Talk. All right. Stephen Cuffey, good to see you, my man. Happy you're here. Patrick Travers, good to see you as well. He says Tennessee blows out LSU. Bold prediction there. But we did predict that game today, Patrick. I don't know if you watched that video, but we talked about Tennessee and the LSU game. I wouldn't say that Tennessee is going to blow them out necessarily, but I do think that they win that game. I do think Tennessee wins that game, and they win it by about a touchdown or 10 points. Here's my favorite line to use for LSU. My favorite little tidbit to offer to you is LSU is 4-1. Yeah, 4-1. Their lone loss coming to Florida State in the season opener. All right. They have played 3 games, though, against Power 5 teams. And they played Florida State, they played Mississippi State, and they played Auburn. All right? They're 2-1 in those games. They beat Auburn, they beat Mississippi State, lost to Florida State. The one thing all those 3 games have in common, though, is not that they're just Power 5 teams, but LSU trailed by double digits in all of those games. They trailed by 14 to Florida State, nearly came back, but still lost, trailed by 14. They trailed by 13 to Mississippi State, came back. Trailed by 17 to Auburn, came back and won because Auburn really beat themselves and doesn't have a good coach. Bottom line is, if LSU starts slow like they have in those 3 games against Power 5 teams, and they fall to, they get down 10-0, they get down 14-0, whatever it is, to Tennessee, it's done. Because Hendon Hooker and Josh Heupel aren't going to relinquish that lead, especially to an offense for LSU that's really not all that good. Games in Death Valley, great for them. Not a night game, bad for them. LSU fans don't show out as much for those day games. They just don't. Sad, but it's true. Even though they're facing a top 10 team, it's just the facts. So I think Tennessee wins that game. I don't think it's a blowout, but I do think they win it comfortably. Let's see here. Jerry, great question. We're about to get into that. What team has surprised me the most that's doing good? What team has surprised me the most that's doing bad? Great that you asked that, because we're about to go into our biggest surprises and biggest disappointments from each Power 5 conference. It's one team each, so one big surprise, one disappointment from each Power 5 conference. We're going to touch on that here in a second. So great question, great segue. Robert Sharpton, will A&M and Bama be close? Not even in the slightest. Bama's going to murder them. We've been saying that for months. It's going to be the same thing. And my boy, Georgia's DM, Sam, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Happy that you're here tonight. We definitely got to catch up soon. I tell you what, I got to catch up soon. But hope you're doing well. Hope you've recovered from that near loss to Missouri. Had faith in them the whole time. But hope you've recovered. Hope you're doing well. And congrats on your Braves again, I should add. Hoping for another big playoff run from your Braves coming up here. They might end up facing off against. I haven't looked at the bracket, but might play my Cardinals. They're taking on the Phillies, and then we'll of course play the Braves or the Dodgers. So it should be interesting. Any faith in the Dogs? Yeah, in the Dogs, yeah, for sure. I still do. Here's the bottom line: good teams find a way to win, right? I was more concerned after the game against Missouri than I was against Kent State. Kent State, every now and then, one of my favorite lines is a blind squirrel is going to find a nut every now and then, right? So every now and then, even the top dogs are going to allow more points than they should to a weaker opponent. I thought Georgia would bounce back in a bigger way against Missouri. I didn't see that coming. The fact they nearly lost that game and didn't take the lead till 4 minutes left is concerning. But bottom line is, they've got a pretty easy path the rest of the way. Yes, Tennessee's coming up later on. Yes, we know you got Kentucky as well. Maybe classify Florida in there if you want. Kirby's not going to allow them to keep playing at such a poor level. He's going to figure it out for them, and I feel very confident in that. So I still have faith in them. I don't have faith in them as the number 1 team in the country. I dropped them actually down to number 3 in our rankings because I don't think they're worthy of that top spot, but they're still, in my eyes, a playoff team. Unless they lose the regular season, then we really might have to reevaluate. But they're still good and can beat the majority of the teams in the country right now. I feel confident in that. Let's see. Yeah, Braves and Cards in the NLDS. I hope that's the case. I think it'll be a really, really fun series, and I don't want to play the Dodgers. Not saying we just crush the Braves, but I don't want to play the Dodgers. So definitely looking forward to that. Hopefully we can survive. Matthew Castleton, good to see you, man. Can we be friends? He goes, go Cardinals. Well, of course. We're all friends here at the GE Nation, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Even despite our different backgrounds and despite the different teams that we support, we still are all very close friends here and built such a great community and team. So, yes, we appreciate you. Matthew, and go Cardinals for sure. We're on the same page on that. All right, let's get into it. It is halftime of the game. It is halftime of UCF and SMU. We've got the game on over here to kind of monitor, but SMU leading 13-10. 13-10, so should be in for a fun finish at the bounce house later. But let's get into those big surprises or upsets for each Power 5 conference. Again, only 1 team apiece, so bear with us. Your team might not be listed as a surprise team. Doesn't mean that we're not surprised by them. It just means there's another team in the conference that we thought was better in terms of being a surprising team, whatever. All right, let's get into it. Let's just go ahead. ACC, 2 big-time basketball powerhouses, 1 thriving, 1 declining. Duke is the surprise team. I'm sure you can figure that out for yourself. You look at Duke, guys. First-year head coach and Mike Elko. They were bombing under David Cutcliffe. He wasn't getting anything done those last few years with the Blue Devils. Elko comes in, really no prior head coaching experience, has been a solid defensive mind, solid defensive coordinator, and in his first year at Duke has him sitting at 4-1, and the lone loss was by 8 on the road to Kansas. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy that Duke, I think last year they won 3 games, so they've already exceeded last year's win total in the first year with their new head coach. So give credit to Duke and obviously the offense. Riley Leonard at quarterback has been playing phenomenal football and have been a pleasant surprise. They're in the Coastal race, guys. That division is so wide open. They're in the Coastal race, and Duke more than likely going to improve to 5-1 this week if they take down Georgia Tech, and we believe that they will. So Duke, the biggest surprise in the ACC, in my opinion, maybe over that of like Syracuse. I know, Jerry, you really want to see Syracuse there, and they were under strong consideration for sure. But I think, obviously, Duke and the struggles they've had these recent years, obviously dealing, and also with it being a first-year head coach, I felt more justified to have Duke as the surprise team than Syracuse, but Syracuse a close second. And Sam, thank you so much, man. Thank you for that super chat. I really, really appreciate that. And I like we got stickers now too. It's kind of a new thing that super chat's throwing in. You can like customize a sticker, whatever you want to do for it. So appreciate you, my guy. Every little bit goes a long, long way. Helps us out, and I really, really appreciate that. And then Virginia as our disappointment in the ACC, kind of the biggest team that was such a shock. And we'll go to the camera for a second. Such a shock in the ACC. I wasn't necessarily high on Virginia, thinking they'd go win the conference or anything like that. But when I looked at it, when Brennan Armstrong said that he was coming back and he was going to be paired with Tony Elliott, who had done such a great job as the offensive coordinator at Clemson and had coached so many great quarterbacks during his time at Clemson, when I heard that he was taking that job and Armstrong was coming back and they were going to be paired together and that Virginia was going to have one of the most experienced and talented wide receiver cores in the ACC, all those things combined, I was like, dang, the Cavaliers might be kind of solid. fix up their defense a little bit, and they'll be solid. And now look at them. They're 2-3, and the offense has been horrible. What happened? You were paired with a head coach that's a brilliant offensive mind. You had such a great quarterback from last year who by himself was averaging over 400 yards per game, and they've tanked. They have been struggling to put points on the board. They got blown out by Duke. Our surprise team got blown out by Duke. They barely beat Old Dominion. Needed a field goal as time expired to win that game. I can't remember who else. They got blown out by Illinois, which was not a bad loss considering Illinois is looking pretty solid. But, Virginia just has not looked good and been nearly as good as we thought they were going to be back in the preseason. And that's a disappointment. That's kind of been hard to watch. So that is our biggest disappointment there. A Duke team that we had at 3-9, just like CCD said. He had Duke at 3-9, and he said, "Boy, I missed." He goes, "Yeah, I did too, man. I think I had him at 2-10. So you were at least a little bit better than me. 3-9 for you, 2-10 for me. Chance they're going to be 5-1 after Saturday. Virginia, a team I had at 7-5, thought they might be able to be a little bit of a contender, dark horse in the ACC. 2-3 and could be 2-4 this week after their game against Louisville. That'll be a very interesting game there. So that's the ACC. Biggest surprise, Duke. Biggest disappointment, Virginia. And before we move on to our next conference, major shout out first off to Dave. What's going on, Dave? Happy you're here tonight. Glad you could join us for a little bit. And CCD as well. I appreciate you, man. Yes, you're going 5-1. I actually believe that. I really do. I know some people will disagree with me. I am picking Maryland to beat Purdue. I picked them back in the preseason. Go look, I did. And I'm sticking with that. I'm picking them to beat Purdue. I don't know if I had Maryland at 5-1 at that point. I'm sure I had them at 4-2 or something. But yeah, I got them at 5-1 for sure. And I appreciate you, CCD. Thank you very much for that super chat. Again, first donation of the month. I love it. Yeah, it kind of is weird. It's a new month. It's October. It's the 5th now. I lose track of time. Actually, yeah. Yesterday was our first live stream of October. I wasn't even thinking about that, the significance. But thank you very much for that, CCD. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward, really, to that game against Purdue. Such a great quarterback battle between Aiden O'Connell and Talia. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, another game, that's at 11 a.m., along with all the other marquee games. The Kansas-TCU game, as Steven just mentioned, that's at 11. Tennessee-LSU, we talked about that today. That's at 11. A lot of big games on that are at 11 o'clock, morning games. So make sure you're up. Get up. It's game day. You better be up for week 6 because we've got some big ones early in the morning. You can go to bed. For me and for many of you, we're not going to bed till like 1 or 2. We got to stay up for that Pac-12 after dark stuff. I think the last game on the schedule is Stanford and Oregon State at like 10 o'clock Central Time. So that probably won't be over until about 1 o'clock. But for you guys, and for anybody else, go to bed early, but make sure you're up early to watch game day from Kansas for the first time ever. And then, of course, getting to watch all those 11 o'clock games for sure. Dave said he was a little late because he's got to play on the game. Yeah, UCF and SMU, man. Hey, completely understand. We've actually got it on, Dave. You're a little late, but we've got our iPad off to the side. We were talking about that, so we're watching the game with you, kind of live as we go. All right, let's do the Big Ten. How about that? We just talked about them. Illinois. How about that? Illinois is our surprise team, and Michigan State is our disappointment, and we'll explain the logic for both. Illinois, guys, what a job that Brett Bielema has done. I'm not the fan of him as a coach. I'm really not. I don't really think he's all that great of a coach. But I will give Illinois credit, especially for what they did against Wisconsin this last week. Bielema facing off against his former school. Keep in mind, before Arkansas, he was the head coach at Wisconsin and did very well. So to go into Madison and win that game 34-10 is extremely impressive and extremely difficult to do. They're 4-1? Illinois is playing good ball, and how are they doing it? They're doing it through dominant, stifling defense, which was actually a strength for them last year, and then a resurging offense. Which has been kind of impressive and unexpected from Bielema. It's typically a ground and pound type of team. Illinois, as Sam just said, he says they're winning the Big Ten West. They're absolutely in the running for it. And let me give y'all something real quick to go along with the surprising aspect of this. Let me just pull up Illinois' schedule here. They're 4-1, all right? They're 4-1, and if you look at the Big Ten West standings, everybody in the Big Ten West is 1-1 in conference play, with the exception of Wisconsin, who was 0-2. And remember, earlier today we said potential upset Northwestern over Wisconsin. So that would put the Badgers at 0-3 and completely out of the title race. Wisconsin wins, they jump right back in the title race. So crazy how that would work. But again, you look at Illinois' schedule. They host Iowa this weekend in Champaign. They host Iowa. They probably could win that game. Iowa's so bad offensively that if Illinois is just probably able to drop, I think, 17 points, probably going to win. Toss-up game there. Then they play Minnesota the next week. That's a tough game. Illinois put off the upset against the Golden Gophers last year. That was in Minnesota. So that was on the road. Now they get to host them. Then they go on the road to Nebraska. Tough road environment, sure. Not that great of a team. They just won on the road at Madison. I'd say that probably was a bit of a tougher environment and a tougher team than Nebraska was. Could win that game. They host Michigan State. They host Purdue. They go on the road to Northwestern. The only game that I see on the schedule for Illinois that I think is probably a guaranteed loss, and even then you can't guarantee anything in college football, is the road game at Michigan in the second to final game of the year. And if that's the case, if Illinois only loses one more game the rest of the year, they are winning the Big Ten West. This is a good team, guys. Again, a very good team, a very surprising team. They only lost to Indiana, so I'm sure my man David Cattell is probably pretty happy with that. It was a big win for his Hoosiers back in week 1. That's the only loss for them. They beat Virginia. They beat Wisconsin. They beat Wyoming. And the schedule really isn't that bad. The schedule really isn't that bad. Winning the Big Ten West could be a stretch, but going to a bowl, winning maybe 7 games or something, and not out of the realm of possibility. And if they beat Iowa, Illinois could find themselves in the top 25. Might be a stretch too, it's possible. Michigan State, they are the biggest disappointment so far in the Big Ten. Why? Well, again, look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. You've got a Michigan State team guy that has dropped 3 straight games. And they haven't even been close. They were blown out against Washington. They were blown out at home against Minnesota. And then they lost by 14 to Maryland this last week. The Spartans really have not fixed any of their defensive issues. They had the worst passing defense in the country last year. Once again, a very poor secondary this year. They're 2-3. And as CCD said, I had Sparty at 8-4. I think that's what I had them at too. Either 8-4 or 9-3. So you might have been a little better than me too. They're 2-3 now. They're not going to win this Saturday. They're playing Ohio State. I don't care if the game's in East Lansing. They're not winning. So they're 2-4. They still have yet to play Michigan. They've got the road game at Illinois that we just mentioned. They've got a road game at Penn State. There's a good chance that Michigan State might not even go bowling this year. That's how bad they are. And I feel like, Michigan State made a very poor choice. Again, you have to watch out with these coaches, guys. They had a great year last year. Won, 11 games? Won the Peach Bowl over Pittsburgh. Despite the bad defense, they were able to do it with Peyton Thorne and God, what's his name? Blanked on the running back name. Kenneth Walker, right? I think that's what it was. One of the best running backs Michigan State had in a long, long time. And then they signed Mel Tucker to a $95 million contract or something. One good year. He was mediocre in the COVID year. Last year lit it up. And then one good year. And he inks his major contract. And they're regretting that. 2-3 might not go bowling. Why would you ink someone to that long of a contract for one solid year? It's just a classic case of overreactions. Just a bad case. And I know the bots are shocked by that too. I can tell that they were in agreement that Michigan State made a major mistake. I fully agree. We'll get them out of here. We'll go delete those in a second. But yeah, Illinois, the biggest one. Surprise, I think, in the Big Ten. Michigan State, the biggest disappointment so far in the Big Ten. Before we continue, again, I want to give another shout out to my man Dave. Glad you're here. And Max Todd as well. Very happy that you're here too. He said he worked late. Completely understandable. As we joked about a while back with our man Flo, who is, sometimes here, sometimes not. We don't take roll here. We're not keeping track. Look, I always carry a pencil and a pen around. I got a notebook over here, but I'm not keeping track of tardies and absences and anything like that. We're just happy you're here. Whether you're here for 10 minutes, whether you're here for the whole stream, we're always happy when you're able to pop in. That goes for everybody. So he goes, I'm an independent contractor. I don't punch a time clock. There you go. Understandable. Completely understandable. Max, good to have you. Dave, good to have you. Sam, good to have you. And yeah, Cyclone Mitch, my man, thank you for that. He knocked him out. I appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. Sam says, when you've got bots, you know you've made it. You know you made it. I guess so. I guess that's one way of looking at it, because we're getting more and more of those now. Even on the normal videos, we're getting these people that jump in. You'll get the comments. I'm like, ooh, a new comment. It boosts my analytics, and then it's a bot. I'm like, great. But I'm honored to have them on the live streams. They're searching us out. All right, let's go to our third Power 5 conference. Again, biggest surprise team, biggest disappointment. We've got the Big 12. And I mean, this one's obviously a no-brainer, right? I mean, I think the Big 12 was probably the easiest one to decide who the biggest surprise team was and who the biggest disappointment was so far. I mean, Kansas. I mean, how can you not pick them? 5-0, top 20 team. Have a chance to continue to rise up those rankings if they can take down TCU. I know my man Dave disagrees and doesn't think they're going to win it. We'll have our official analysis for Kansas and TCU tomorrow right here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But, I mean, God, what an amazing job by Lance Leipold. I mean, give it to him. Give it to him. I mean, the guy has done, second year to take a program that was one of the biggest rebuilding projects in the country, and to have them at 5-0, to be hosting game day for the first time, to have them ranked for the first time since 2009, to most likely get them back to the postseason for the first time since, 2008? I mean, unreal job. And again, you could have said, I think Kansas would be, through 5 games, 3-2. That would have been a great start. That probably would have been surprising. But no one picked them to go 5-0 with the win on the road at West Virginia, with the win in dominant fashion, I should add, over Houston, a win over a surprising Duke team, a win over Iowa State. I don't think anybody saw that. So that's obviously the biggest surprise. And then we talked about it earlier. I think it was Mitch that was talking about the Red River Showdown at Oklahoma. I mean, we talked a lot about them earlier, so we won't touch much on them now. But I think a lot of people had a lot more faith in Brent Venables, and I still think he's a phenomenal coach. I still think he's a phenomenal hire. I don't think Oklahoma's a bad team, but no one, especially Sooner fans, thought they would be 3-2 at this point in the year. Maybe 4-1. A lot of people thought they might have slipped up to Nebraska. So if you want to sub that game in for TCU or Kansas State, go ahead. But bottom line is, there we go, another moderator, if you don't mind. They are persistent. I'll give them that. But I don't think anyone expected them to be 3-2 with the loss to Kansas State again. A bad Kansas State team at that. Let's add that as well. This was at the time a bad Kansas State team that had just lost to Tulane, and then to come in and upset Oklahoma in Norman was shocking. Matthew Hazelhorst, don't get mad at me. I don't think they're bad now. I think they're worthy of that top 20 spot now, 100%. But was shocking at the time. And then obviously the game against TCU was just horrendous. And as we mentioned in our recap, many Sooner fans I know would be quick to say, the reason we lost to TCU was because we lost Dylan Gabriel. If he had stayed healthy the whole time, we would have come back. No, you wouldn't have. It wasn't going to happen. The defense wasn't doing their job. The offense was struggling. It was 27-10 at the end of the first. I mean, it was not their day. TCU was by and large the better team. And they dominated that game from start to finish. And as Dave says, he thinks he will do the same thing against Kansas on Saturday. So we will see. Very excited to see how that pans out. And Cyclone Mitch says Kansas should build a new stadium for their strong start. Let's not overreact just like Michigan State did with Mel Tucker. But if Lance Leipold agrees to stick around for a while and obviously has some continued success, I'm not even saying winning the Big 12 or anything like that. Just continued bowl games and things like that. I agree. I was at Kansas Stadium, I guess it was 2 years ago. Two or 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to go to the Kansas Stadium. Funny story on that. I'll give you this before we continue. We only have two conferences left. I'm going through Kansas, and I'm popping in to do our prediction from Memorial Stadium, right? I'm doing it from the Kansas Stadium. And I walk over there, and the gate is wide open to the field, right there. I mean, so I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go check this thing out. But most of our prediction videos come from the field anyways, right? And we in our prediction video that year did come from the field. So I walk down there, and there's a security guard that's coming around on one of the not what are they called? Thing that Paul Blart drives. You know what I'm talking about. Blanket on it. But he's coming around on his little scooter, and he stops me, and he's like, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, hey man, I'm just stopping by. I'm passing through. I give him a business card. Got a lot of business cards telling him who I am." At the time, Les Miles was still the head coach. So we just start shooting the breeze about Kansas football. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna knock out this video if you don't mind. We're gonna talk about your team. And he goes, well, are you gonna talk good about them? Are you gonna say we're gonna do good? And I was like, oh yeah, like totally, man, like for sure. They're gonna be really great this year. I go, all right. He goes, well, you know what? Go ahead and knock yourself out. If you want to throw some passes around while you're out here on the field, we had a football. If you want to throw some balls around, go ahead. Just lock up when you're done. It's like 5:00 on like a Wednesday. And I looked at, I was like, you want me to lock up the stadium? He goes, yeah. Because I'll come back like later tonight, like 10 or 11, something like that. But yeah, if you look over there, the gate that you came through, you can shut it, and it's got like a big padlock and some chains. So if you just wrap the chains around and lock the lock, we'll be good to go. No worries. I was like, all right, cool. He goes, but you can't talk bad about Kansas. And I was like, yep, you got it, dude, 100%. So he leaves, speeds off on his little scooter, and I go out there and we film the Kansas video, and we throw the ball around, caught some touchdowns, had some great pictures. I mean, honestly, great field, really great field. Stadium itself, I agree, Mitch, does need some work, and it would be nice to have a renovation, but it was pretty cool to be out there. And I think I predicted Kansas to go like 2-10 that year, so I kind of let my boy down, let that officer down. But I couldn't say Kansas is going to go bowling or something like that because it wasn't going to happen. I think it was Miles' second year there. But yeah, I mean, such a chill guy. You're not going to get that many other places, which is pretty weird. So yeah, just lock up the stadium whenever you're done. Cool, dude. Sounds great. Certified Cully, good to see you, man. Nice to have you. Video for Kansas and TCU comes out tomorrow, so we'll discuss more about that then. But thanks for stopping by. Hope you like it. Big TCU fan. Max says that he thinks the honeymoon is over for Kansas, but he's pulling for him anyways. Yeah, and I think as a Kansas fan, you have to understand it's probably about to be over too, right? Like the game against TCU is going to be very tough, and I think a lot of people believe they're going to lose that game. And even if they, look at that big play for UCF right out of the gate, kick off the third quarter. But I think if you're a Kansas fan, you just got to enjoy the ride. Even if they lose to TCU, how upset can you be if you're a Kansas fan if you lose? It's like, dang, we lost. We're still 5-1. Like, we just need one more win to go bowling. Most Kansas fans walked into this year thinking, 4 or 5 wins would be a solid year. And now they're a top 20 team. So I think a lot of people are pulling for Max, just like you are, I am for sure. But eventually the honeymoon will end. Eventually Kansas will lose. Could be this week, could be next week, who knows. But ultimately a bowl game would be considered a phenomenal year. And even if they lost out, one more game, 1-5 down the stretch or 1-6 down the stretch, I think Kansas and Lance Leipold, he deserves Coach of the Year. I mean, what a turnaround. Just kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, as Sam said, just throw Kansas is likely going bowling this year. Same here. And I tell you one thing. Not that they were probably going to have too many anyways, but Kansas, when they make that bowl game, you won't see a single opt-out of that game. Even if they have a couple players that are borderline NFL talent or thinking of going pro, I don't think you'll see them opt out. Because that is a pretty big deal for Kansas and a very big honor to be in that game. If I was a Kansas player, even if I was going to be a first-round draft pick, if I led Kansas to a bowl game this year, I wouldn't opt out of that bowl game for anything because it means so much to the program and it's such a huge milestone. You got to play in it. So, again, a difference there in terms of motivation and the significance of bowls for certain programs. Justin Shinko, good to see you, man. Glad you're here. He said, glad to see you. I'm glad to see you. What are your Gamecocks' chances against Kentucky? You're feeling oddly optimistic. I think you should, Justin. I really do. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't think they're going to win. I don't think South Carolina's going to win, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to, just get murdered either. I think it's going to be a much closer game than people realize. Again, Kentucky coming off that win, or that loss, against Ole Miss, that you wonder how they're going to bounce back from that, because there's got to be something in the back of their head that tells them we should have won that game. We should have won against Ole Miss. I mean, 3 straight turnovers on their final 3 possessions, getting inside the 20 both times and fumbling the ball away. All you needed was a field goal just to tie it, and they couldn't even get that. So Kentucky probably should have won. The Ole Miss defense came through clutch, and Kentucky screwed themselves up. And as Sam just said, the Kentucky offensive line is not all that great. We saw that last week. It's evident. My biggest thing is, if I'm South Carolina, if you can shut down Chris Rodriguez, who's back, obviously, if you shut down Chris Rodriguez and force Levis to win the game through the air, you've got a very good chance, because the South Carolina secondary isn't all that bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And Levis is capable, but I wouldn't think he could do it all by himself. So, I think the game's going to be closer. South Carolina, Kentucky, usually closer games than expected. Typically, we've seen some crazy upsets or crazy finishes, and I would expect anything less here. I think Rattler and Levis is going to be a good QB battle for sure. All right, we got 2 conferences left. I want to share that little story, talk a little about Kansas, and welcome some other people to the stream. Pac-12, we're saving the SEC for last. The Pac-12, Washington and Arizona State. Washington, the biggest surprise so far in the Pac-12. Arizona State, the biggest disappointment in the Pac-12 so far. And honestly, this was kind of a tough one to decide as well, because, again, by surprise, you're not going to pick a team that had very lofty preseason expectations. So we weren't going to put USC as our surprise team. We weren't going to put Utah as our surprise team. You could make a case, obviously, for UCLA. Who is sitting at 5-0, number 18 in the country. But I decided to go with Washington here, who's at 4-1, lost to UCLA, but still ranked 21st nationally. I mean, Washington is a team that I think a lot of people under first year, Kalen DeBoer, thought, they might win, 6-7 games and be considered a success. And they're on track to do much better than that, be much better than that. And I'm looking at the Huskies guys. The offense has been what surprised me the most. The offense has been phenomenal. Michael Penix has been fully healthy, and I hope he stays that way. He's been playing great. The defense, once again, strong. Didn't show that against UCLA, but still, once again, very strong. And I just don't think people saw them annihilating Michigan State the way they did. I don't think many people saw them annihilating Stanford the way they did, almost beating UCLA. Ironically, what I like about this little graphic here is the fact that Washington plays Arizona State this Saturday. They play each other at 3 o'clock Central Time on Saturday. So this will be a battle between our biggest surprise team in the Pac-12 against the biggest disappointment so far in the Pac-12. And I do think Washington's going to win that game. I do. You look at Arizona State, guys, and I look at CCD. He had Arizona State at 4-8. He had Washington at 9-3. Wow, that's impressive. That's awesome. Washington at 9-3, which was bold. In the preseason, that would have been considered very bold, but very much could happen now. Arizona State, the reason they're a disappointment team for us is they 1-4. They fired Herm Edwards, which we kind of knew was coming with all the violations that Arizona State committed and things like that. It was inevitable that Herm Edwards was going to be gone. I didn't think it would happen mid-season. The major reason it was not happening mid-season was because they're lost to Eastern Michigan. So they're 1-4, probably should be 2-3 had they not lost to Eastern Michigan. But even then, guys, look at Arizona State's schedule. Blowout loss to Oklahoma State, lost to Eastern Michigan, got torched on the ground, blowout loss to Utah, blowout loss to USC. They've just been uncompetitive. But we also knew that coming into the year. I think I had, like UCCD, I think I had Arizona State around 4-8, 5-7. And even then, I thought that was a little bit generous. The secondary was god-awful. They were completely bare coming into the season, dealing with a transfer quarterback and Emory Jones, transfer running back and Xavier Ballade transferring in from Wyoming. You had all the violations and the allegations against them coming into this season, so that was obviously on the mind of all the players and the staff. The rumor going around that the coaches at Arizona State were tipping off other teams, helping them out so they would help get Herm Edwards fired. That's some dirty stuff. you've got to be ready to get rid of your coach and ready to move on with your life and your career if you're doing that. If you are literally ratting out your head coach, that's just a bad look. So Arizona State, our title of our Arizona State prediction video back in the summer was Arizona State is a dumpster fire, and that's exactly what they are. But even then, I don't think anybody could have predicted them to be this bad. 1-4, very uncompetitive. Again, who else would be classified as a disappointment in the Pac-12? Stanford, not really, not very high expectations. Colorado, definitely not, although they're 0-5. That's really bad. Arizona's been a surprise. California's got a winning record. Washington State's been solid. Oregon State, 0-2 in conference play. That might be a disappointment, but they, almost beat USC, and then they played Utah. So first two conference games were against the top two teams in the conference, and they fell to both. So, I feel like Arizona State was the only appropriate pick here, personally. Just my thing. But all right, that wraps up the Pac-12. Let's go to the SEC, last one, and then we will resort back to the comments and hit on those for a little bit before we call tonight. But again, I want to give a shout out to Toby Shelfer, who was here. Just saw him. John Sarian, good to see you. Kansas is sold out for the third time this year. Last time that happened was 2008. How about that? That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Dion Thacker, good to see you. Gridiron expert, more like mid-iron. That's better. That's better, Dion. Thank you. The one yesterday, I think you were referencing a cast iron skillet. It wasn't your best work, but that one's better. I like that. Well done. Well done. And then Justin, I will come back to your comment, Justin. Don't worry. I will be touching on that soon. All right. Last one, SEC. Surprise team on the left. Disappointment on the right. Tennessee and Arkansas. Those are our two teams in the SEC. And this one was also a little bit difficult as well. This one was kind of a tough one to call as well. Again, you didn't want to put a team in there that had these really lofty preseason expectations as your surprise team. And I wouldn't say Tennessee necessarily had those. Keep in mind, the Volunteers started the year unranked. They're now 8th in the country, but they were unranked. And I don't see any other team that could put in as a surprise in the SEC, maybe other than Mississippi State. Maybe. That would be the only one I could say is my surprise in the SEC. It was kind of tough between Tennessee and Mississippi State, but I went with the Volunteers, who are 4-0, undefeated, top 10 team, have looked good in every game they've played, have a Heisman contender in Hendon Hooker. To me, that is more worthy of the surprise spot. Give credit to Tennessee, guys. And if they can beat LSU this year in Baton Rouge, and there's a very good chance they will, it's going to set up a huge showdown in Knoxville next week when they take on Alabama, potentially the number 1 and number 6 team in the country in Knoxville. what a game that's going to be on the 15th, if they can escape LSU. Arkansas, obviously, is a disappointment in our eyes. That was, as Sam said, that was kind of a tough decision between Arkansas and Texas A&M. I didn't put A&M there because I knew they were kind of overrated to begin with. I never agreed with them being ranked as high as they were. I never thought they were that good. They proved that with the loss to App State. They definitely proved that again last week, getting blown out by Mississippi State. Arkansas, though, for the second year in a row, has found themselves as a top 10 team and has blown that top 10 team ranking. Last year they were 8th in the country. Got blown out against Georgia. Then they lost to Ole Miss. Then they lost to Auburn. They were sent on a 3-game losing streak before they kind of righted the ship and went, 4-1 down the stretch. Problem is, for Arkansas, they're about to do the exact same thing. And if you're Arkansas fans, you've kind of got to be disappointed with that. Again, you get to the top 10, you lose to A&M. Again, you shouldn't have lost. You lose to Bama. That's understandable. They're probably going to lose this week to Mississippi State for 2 reasons. Number 1, most likely going to be without their quarterback in KJ Jefferson. And even if they had KJ Jefferson, I wouldn't have faith in Arkansas beating Mississippi State in Starkville with as bad as Arkansas secondary is. That air raid offense that the Bulldogs run, they're going to light up the Razorbacks. So you factor in that the Razorbacks could be without their starting quarterback, who gives themselves an extra edge. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but KJ has yet to practice this week. He has yet to practice this week, and it's Wednesday. So that is a bit of a concern. And Sam Pittman's his MO and his rule is if you don't practice, you don't play. So you're coming into Thursday. Team's going to leave on Friday probably, and it's not looking good. So backup quarterback for Arkansas, horrible defense. Arkansas is now about to be sent to their third straight loss, and it easily could be 4 straight losses with a road game at BYU. That's not an easy game at all. Not an easy environment to play. So they go from top 10 just at the end of September to 3-4 and unranked. And we might be getting ahead of ourselves, but Arkansas has severely, I believe, disappointed their fan base once again. It's been a major disappointment. Going 8-4, no one really thought Arkansas would regress. No one really thought Arkansas would regress. They'd either stay about the same or improve, and they're not doing that this year. The only way they have a chance to do that is if they upset Mississippi State on Saturday, and I don't see that happening at all. So again, just to recap, we hit our upset alerts. We did all of that. Again, the biggest surprise team in the ACC is Duke. The biggest disappointment so far is Virginia. And I will tell you this, at the end of the season, guys, we will do a full video on this. Because, the beauty of this is it could change, The beauty of this is right now we think Duke's the biggest surprise in the ACC and Virginia's the biggest disappointment. That could change by the end of the year. This is what we have at about the halfway point. So Duke, biggest surprise in the ACC. Virginia, biggest disappointment. Illinois, biggest surprise so far in the Big Ten, followed by Michigan State as the biggest disappointment. Big 12, no-brainer on both sides. Kansas, so far, the biggest surprise, and probably will remain the biggest surprise in the Big 12, barring a crazy finish. Oklahoma, biggest disappointment. And then the Pac-12, Washington, biggest surprise. Arizona State, biggest disappointment. Just touched on that. And then the SEC, like we just mentioned, Tennessee is our biggest surprise so far. Arkansas, biggest disappointment. The beauty about all of this, guys, is the fact that we have another half of the season left to play. We have a lot of football left. We just now got into October. We just now jumped into October. We have so much football left to play. So much can change for the teams we mentioned, for the teams we have not mentioned, for your teams, for your rivals, if you wish ill will upon them. So much can happen over these next few months of college football that's greatly going to shape the conference races and the playoff races, and we could not be more excited. But I will tell you this, the one thing that might get me a little bit more excited is Stephen Cuffey. How about that? Stephen, thank you so much, man, for that super chat donation. That's what gets us hyped up here at the Gridiron Expert. Really appreciate you. So Sam, CCD, and Stephen coming through clutch on the super chat. Thank you so much, my guy. We appreciate that donation. As we mentioned, every single bit helps, right? Every little bit helps and goes a long way. And I'll go ahead and take this time now. We haven't even done it tonight to plug in the expert picks. So what you guys do on the super chat, we funnel right back into the channel. The same goes with the expert picks. We are trying to get to 100 subscriptions on that. And as we mentioned yesterday, we're over halfway there. David Cattell helped us get there a little bit closer. Yesterday, he went out and bought our picks right here on the air. And I love it when people buy while we're on the air because we get to give a big celebration, a big shout out, just right here. So I love it when that happens. So David, again, I want to thank you for that. But the expert picks, guys, beating out over 80% of the national analysts. Not a lie. 80% of the national analysts, hitting over 60% of our spread picks this year, hitting over 83% on the money line this year. These prices are one of the lowest prices in the entire country, guys. We do that for a reason. We want you guys to get on them. We want you to become a part of the GE Nation. We want you to benefit from them. Some guys are offering $60 a day, $60 a week. This is $60 for a year, $40 for a year. And we want you guys to take advantage of that because we know you're going to win. We know our picks are going to help you win. So spread the word. Spread the word, whether it's to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, on your social media. We are trying to get to 100, and if we get that, we are doing a 24-hour live stream. We are also apparently doing some dance moves, according to Dion and Hunter and many others. We're doing some dance moves. We are going to have one heck of a time on the Gridiron Expert if we can hit our goal of 100. And like I said, David helped us get one step closer to that yesterday. Many of you have also helped us get there, over halfway there, over 50% there. Let's try to get it by season's end, because if we can get it during the season, we can even have a little watch party, kind of watching games live with you on the live stream. Would be even better. So that's the expert picks, guys. Help us out. Spread the word. Same with the prize picks as well. If you don't like the super chat, if you don't like the expert picks, the prize picks can do the exact same. Prize picks can do the exact same if you use our promo code Gridiron, though. So download their app, use our promo code Gridiron, and that goes a long, long way for us as well. It's a great partnership. We love working with them. We want to try to keep that partnership, but we can't keep them unless we get help from you. So download the app, one-time deposit, using the promo code Gridiron. It benefits you, benefits us, and they're running a special. They're running a special where you bet $1 on Ezekiel Elliott to get 1 rushing yard, and you win $25. So you bet on Ezekiel Elliott to get 1 rushing yard this next week, and you're getting $25. It's a great steal, a great deal, and if you use our promo code Gridiron, you get some more perks with that as well. So take a look at that. Major shout out to my man Max. Max, thank you so much, man. A contractor is stopping by to talk shop and drop off blueprints. Boy, that's some exciting stuff. But hey, that's where it's at, man. Grind truly does never stop. Max, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for that super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Like I said, it goes a long way. Good luck with the blueprints, talking shop. We'll see you next Tuesday for another live stream, maybe in the chat with some other videos that we post, but definitely next Tuesday. And as she says, roll tide rolled, roll tide roll. Taking on Texas A&M. Max, I don't think you have too much to worry about. I think you're going to be in good shape. But I appreciate you and your support, my man. And same with you, Steven, as well. Thank you very much, Steven. I really, really appreciate that. CCD says, I'm saving up to go to JUCO, so I can't donate much more. Understandable, my guy. Understandable. From what I've seen in our Discord, you're doing relatively well on your bets as well. So hopefully some of those winnings that you're getting from that are you're able to put towards some JUCO. I genuinely hope so. So, but hey, like I said, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever it is, it goes a long way. It helps, and you've donated time and time again on the live streams, and we really, really appreciate that. So, wow, there you go, guys. There you go. Steven, Max, CCD, all of you guys, I really appreciate it. Sam, next stream Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. We're doing this every Tuesday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. So, we'll make sure to keep posting that on the channel and on Twitter and things like that. But 7 o'clock Central Time on both Tuesday and Wednesday, that will be our next stream. Tuesday will definitely be a call-in show. We like to do one where people can call in and one where we just strictly stick on the chat because things kind of get out of whack and not everybody gets to be heard and things like that. So next Tuesday will be a call-in show, and we'll hope to see you there, man. Hope to see you there. Looking forward to it. But I appreciate you all support, man. Keep killing it. Keep killing it on all college football. I mean, one of the best pages out there, guys. I love following that page. And Sam, we'll talk more soon for sure. And Steven is buying the $60 plan right now. Dude, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Dude, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I get this. I got my phone right here. As soon as I see it come through, we're going to have a big celebration for you. I'm telling you. But I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It helps us get one more step closer to our goal, and you get your name in the book. Get your name in the book. That's where we keep track of all the people that we have on here, that we send special emails to and promos and kind of continue building the community. We got all of our GE members right here in this book, and it's awesome. It's great. So Steven, I appreciate that. CCD saying he might call in for the first time next week. I don't know. Dude, do it, man. Do it. Do it. Do it. Come on. Join the call in, baby. I mean, I've actually had we've had people come on here and they say, I'm scared to call in. I'm nervous to call in. I don't know I don't know what to say. The beauty of that is the goal here when we do these live streams and these call-in shows is we don't, we're not going to judge. We're not going to care what the question is. We're just ready to talk ball. You come out there with a decent question or a decent topic. I just want your thoughts on this game. Not really a question. What's your thought? What's your thought on this player, this coach, this situation? Lay it on me. Let's go. And we love having that discussion with you guys and love getting, golly, the bots tonight are on a roll. But we love getting to have that discussion. So give us a call, man. Hunter's called in. Both Hunters have called in. I know Dave called in last week. We've had a lot of guys call in over the recent years that we've been doing these live streams. It's been really, really fun. And he says, I'm casually flexing my Arkansas State Cup. Yeah, I guess. Wolves up. They played James Madison this weekend. And I'm actually really upset. I'm upset that I can't go to that game. It's in Jonesboro, so not too far from me. And I was looking forward to getting to go watch it, and I'm not going to be able to make it up there this Saturday. But James Madison, undefeated, big surprise in the Sun Belt. Should be a fun one, so I guess I got to flex my cup a little bit for such a big game. Steven, yeah, there should be a guest checkout, man. When it takes you there should be a button below. It says pay with debit or credit or something like that, and a guest checkout. So you don't have to have a PayPal account. You definitely don't have to do that. All of our people that have bought always have a that they check out as the guest. So there should be a button there. Steven, if it's not working, I'll do this for you. Oh, you're okay now. Okay, good. I was going to say, if it's not working, I will send you something, but I'm glad it's working better for you. And I really appreciate it. Let me know if you have any issues with that. Gang unit, what are my 3 best picks? You can get, actually, I'm telling you, you can get my 3 best picks if you sign up for the expert picks. Believe it or not. We actually have a new section under there now, and in our Discord as well. We list the best picks, the games that we feel most confident. We feel confident about all our picks, I'll tell you what. But we say, top picks of the week or top pick of the week. That's on our expert picks. So Gang Unit, if you haven't signed up for that, do what Steven's doing. Go sign up for that tonight so you can access the picks. Our newest picks just came out today for both college and NFL. Helps us get a little bit closer to our goal, and you're going to win some big-time money, and you get our 3 best picks as well. So, Gang Unit, if you're listening, go check it out. Go sign up. We appreciate your support, and look forward to winning you some big-time bucks. Really do. All right, let's see here. Sarah Brown says, "Go Red Wolves. Let me hear you howl." Okay. So here's a good conversation. I got two topics left. I want to talk about tonight. 2 topics. There we go. First off, we'll get it. Stephen Cuffey just bought the expert picks. Everybody, there we go. Stephen, thank you so much, my guy. Give him a round of applause in the chat. We appreciate that. We appreciate you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Not only doing a super chat, but also coming through with the PayPal and the expert picks. Dude, as Dave said, you'll be glad. Well worth it. We can guarantee that. The numbers alone speak for themselves. And Steven, we are so pumped to have you as a part of our GE Nation, man. You've been one for a while. We're happy to add you to that list. Happy to add you to that team with the expert picks. Again, the support does not go unnoticed, man. So thank you so much, Steven. Let's go, baby. Thank you so much. You and David last week, or yesterday, back-to-back sales on the live stream. Even better, getting to do it live on here. I love it. So Steven, thank you so much. And everybody else, let's give him a round of applause again. And Steven, share the word, man. Share if you've got some friends that might be interested, some friends that might be into that, family, friends, spread the word. Tell them. Send them over to our expert picks as well so we continue to get close to that 100 goal, which I believe we can definitely hit before season's end. But yes, super pumped. You're excited about that. And thank you so much again. So last 2 topics here. Sarah comes in. She goes, "Let me hear you howl." All right. So if you have been to an Arkansas State game or you watch Arkansas State football, whatever it may be, their hand gesture is this, right? That is it's like the wolf, right? There's the mouth, it's your ears, and there's it's wolves up. That is their deal, all right? If you take these 3 fingers here and just curl them in a little bit, what do you get? You get hook 'em horns. For me personally, I just feel like that's all they did. I feel like Arkansas State kind of ripped off Texas. Hook 'em horns, that's the, if you want to go down or up, however you want to do it, that's what Texas thing's been forever. I mean, for since the dawn of time. And so Arkansas State comes in here, keep in mind, they're the Red Wolves now. They used to be the Indians. And then they changed their name to the Red Wolves and went to this and went to that. And to me, it's just hook 'em horns with just, taking the thumb and your middle and 4th finger and putting them out. Basically, hook 'em horns, just popping them out. I think it's kind of a ripoff, in my opinion. So that's what Arkansas State does for that. And she said, I thought of the rock on hand sign. Yeah, so that's more of like that's kind of rock on, right? I mean, isn't this rock on, or is it more like that? One of the two, yeah. But this is more hook 'em horns / rock on, whatever it is. I mean, yes, people do that at the concerts and stuff, but different mindsets, right? I mean, one person sees rock on, one person sees hook 'em horns. I always see hook 'em horns. When your mind's always on football, that's what you get. Yeah, and then the last thing we'll talk about, as I know people are kind of weeding off tonight, and probably people are focused on this UCF SMU game, which, if I'm not mistaken, UCF still winning, right? 17-13. Yeah, we'll make sure to get off here in 1 second so we can all take in the fourth quarter and talk about it in the Discord maybe. Real quick though, you look at the coaching changes over these last few weeks, guys. It's been kind of interesting. Paul Chryst gets fired from Wisconsin. Carl Durrell gets fired from Colorado. Jeff Collins fired from Georgia Tech. Scott Frost fired from Nebraska. We've seen a lot of changes at some major programs. A lot of them within Power 5 over these last few weeks. And we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday when it comes to a program with expectations. What are your expectations at a program? I think it was yesterday we talked about Jimbo Fisher and how he kind of swindled Texas A&M. That was a program in Texas A&M that wasn't there to rebuild. They hired Jimbo to come in and immediately start winning, and he really hasn't done that. Versus a team like Kansas, who, if Lance Leipold was struggling again right now, no one would be calling for his head because they understood it was a rebuilding project, right? So someone put out on Twitter today the numbers for, and I don't have them exactly with me, but the numbers for Jim Harbaugh and Paul Chryst, who were both hired at their respective schools at the same time. Michigan hiring Harbaugh, and obviously Wisconsin hiring Chryst. Their records are practically identical. Their records are practically the same. I think both around 67 and 26, give or take, during their time at Michigan and Wisconsin. One of those guys still has a job. The other guy just got fired. One of those guys has won their division 3 times. One of those guys has only won it once. Harbaugh, obviously, only winning it once just last year, finally beating Ohio State to win that division and then go to the playoff. Wisconsin's won it 3 times, but has failed to make the playoff. And so what that ultimately comes down to for me is, again, a level of expectation that certain schools have. I mean, Michigan expectations are higher than that of Wisconsin, I would say, but yet they're still in the same conference. Also comes down to the difficultness of your schedule and your division. Clearly, the Big Ten East has been the more difficult division in the Big Ten. You are paired as Michigan, you're in there with Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, Maryland, guys like that. Whereas in the Big Ten, recently has not been all that competitive. With Wisconsin, his biggest threat typically was Iowa. Every now and then, someone else would emerge. Minnesota had a good year, 11-win season a few years ago. Nebraska every now and then was okay. Hasn't been really that great in a while, but okay. Purdue could win a game here and there. Northwestern has had their good years. But the thing I'm looking at here is 2 coaches have had basically the same identical record. Paul Chryst having more trophies in their trophy case. And yet he's the one that gets fired, and Michigan is not. Jim Harbaugh is not. Why is that? Why is that? And at what point, do you say, okay, we've suffered long enough, we're tired of this? At what point do you say, we're going to give you a little bit more time? Yeah, we know it's been 6 years, but you really think this is going to be the year? You, coach, know the team better than we do, other than the administration, so we're going to take your word for it. What point do you do that? Cut someone the benefit of the doubt. Because, and I guess also like it comes down to, coaches with the trajectory of the program, right? Michigan is in an upward trajectory right now. They're a top 4 team, fresh off a playoff appearance, playing very good football. Wisconsin hasn't done anything. When they've won those Big Ten West titles, they've never really been in playoff discussion. They were never really in many spots where if they had won the Big Ten championship, they would go to the playoff. Rose Bowl, great, but rarely playoff. And boom, what a throw by Plumlee. Touchdown UCF. God, that was beautiful. Now they're up by 10, 23-13, extra point. Probably put them up 11. Great throw, great play. So again, it's just an interesting mindset here. Wisconsin is trending down right now. The offense has been god-awful for the last few years. People thought Mertz would be the guy to kind of fix them up. He hasn't been that guy. He's completely tanked the offense. Many people told me they felt like Jonathan Taylor kind of masked the offensive issues because you got such a generational talent at the running back position. Once he's gone, they continue to tank. The defense can only do so much. But Wisconsin, I feel like, is just more of a glorified Iowa. We really don't talk much about Wisconsin, how bad their offense is. We focus so much on Iowa doing that, and yet they're really just about the same. Paul Chryst now gone, but ultimately, guys, it's a very interesting topic. One we'll dive into deeper at another time about expectations and standards at your respective program, and whatever those expectations and standards are, that determines how long of the leash the coach is given. A coach at a school like a Kansas, a Vanderbilt, a really bad school, or a school that is going into rebuild mode, like a Colorado, for example, those schools are going to give their coach, in theory, a longer leash than that of whoever the new coach of Wisconsin is, whoever takes over at Nebraska, a Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, although because he swindled Texas A&M, excuse me, it just makes me so emotional. Because he swindled Texas A&M, he's going to be there for a long, long time because, well, the buyout right now is like $85 million. So it's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. With that, guys, I can see our viewers are starting to dwindle, and I can see that the chat has slowly died down. And I know it is a Wednesday night. I know we have college football on. Typically, we don't have it on Wednesdays. And actually a pretty good game at that. Good American athletic matchup between SMU and UCF. With that, I promise I'd let you go before the fourth quarter, and I think that's what we'll do. Eddie Rose, do I think Neil Brown will be fired this season? Yes. If they fail to go bowling, Eddie, yes. West Virginia will get rid of him, which means we'll have another Power 5 opening by season's end, which is pretty crazy. So 100% that will be the case. But with that, guys, we will wrap up tonight's Gridiron live stream. It's a little bit earlier than usual, but I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for another fantastic live stream. I love getting to do our upset alert, not Colin, our upset alert. Love Wacky Wednesday, getting to come out here wearing whatever wacky shirt we might have in our closet. It's always a really, really good time. But that's kind of what our tradition is going to be now on Wednesdays. I'm really looking forward to it. But we're really happy to have you guys. Thank you all so much, whether you're watching now, whether you're watching sporadically, or whether you're watching this later. We appreciate you and appreciate your support and are so thrilled to have you as a part of our GE Nation. Major shout outs again to my man Stephen Cuffey. Thank you so much again. Subscribing to the Expert Picks, helping us out tremendously, becoming such a big, vital part of the team. Stephen, we cannot appreciate you enough. Thank you so much for that. CCD, Eddie Rose, Sarah Brown, our moderators, of course, my man Dave. Of course, we got Cyclone Mitch taking care of those bots for us. Max Todd, I know he headed out. He had to go talk some shop, but we appreciate him and obviously everything that he does for us as well. Roll Tide on Saturday. My man Sam over at Georgia's DM, we appreciate him very much. And Sam, looking forward to talking with you soon. Justin Shinko, of course, we appreciate you. Toby Shelford, John Sarian, Certified Cully. God, who else? Scotty B, who popped in. Mike Myrick, South Tex, Robert Sharpton, SBO Kennels. We appreciate every single one of you. David Cattell, Logan Elliott, Reynold Brown, Charles Phillips, Patrick Travers, Dusty Rabbit. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you again for another phenomenal live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend coming up. Let's produce some winners. Let's have another phenomenal weekend of college football. But remember, we do have 2 more prediction videos coming out this week. TCU and Kansas tomorrow, Utah, UCLA on Friday. So just because this is our last live stream doesn't mean we're not going to have content for you to get you through to Saturday. That will be right here on the channel. We look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday at our next Gridiron live stream. But until then, guys, enjoy the games, enjoy the action. Thank you again for the support, and have a great